Alright students, welcome to another primary source walkthrough. This time we are going to be talking about Alibamo Mingo, who was the leader of the Choctaw natives at the time, and he is describing the newfound political situation that he's in. So before we dive into the source, let's start where we usually do. Let's talk about context. So the main thing here is, let's take a look first at the year, and we see that he writes this in 1765. So this is after the 7 Years' War, or what was called the French and Indian War, at least on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, and a lot of stuff has happened. So here is what North America looks like prior to the 7 Years' War. We have these different empires. So if you notice on the map, and I apologize if you can't see it very well, the green, this is English territory. Okay, this is the English colonies. The pink, that's Spanish territory. This is land that the Spanish say that they are in control of, and the purple here is French. Oh, this is well before the Louisiana Purchase. This is when the French had a really big empire, and you know, between the French, the Spanish, and the English, they were fighting it out for, you know, who was the greatest empire in the world. Well, in North America, I mean, you could make an argument that England's not doing very well. I mean, if landmass is a thing. But all of these empires in America are ruling over native peoples, indigenous peoples, and you know, you can see some settlements and some early cities and towns on this map, but it doesn't show you, you know, where all of the native people are. Well, if you fast forward to the end of the 7 Years' War, you will notice a couple of things. Number one, all the purple's gone. So that should tell us something about the French. At least in 1763, the French are, at least as far as the territory that becomes the United States, they're not really involved right now. I mean, there's probably some French traders around, but you know, none of these lands here are being claimed by the French. Okay, the Spanish are here. They own Louisiana at this point. Don't worry, Napoleon's going to get it back. He does Napoleon things. And the English have expanded. But what this map shows, that the other map didn't show, is indigenous groups of people, indigenous tribes that live in these areas. So when we approach Alibamo Mingo, we have to take stock of two different things. Number one, we have to take stock of the fact that he is a Choctaw. It says so right here, at the top of the source. And if we look at the map, where are the Choctaws? They're down here. Oh, there we go. And I apologize for the glare. So the Choctaws are in now Mississippi, Alabama, you know, not quite Louisiana. They're probably getting down here towards what ends up being the Florida Panhandle, etc. So we're talking about this area here. You also read Pontiac's Rebellion, which is talking about the Ohio River Valley, which is all up here. That's a different story. So we're talking about, at least in this source, or Alibamo Mingo is talking about this area. And what he's describing is a political situation that he's got to navigate. You know, prior to the end of the 7 Years' War, the Europeans that he worked with were the French. Now, after the war is over, England has taken control of this territory, and now they say it is rightfully theirs, and they are the ones who are going to be dealing and administering and honestly oppressing the natives who are living in these places. So what Alibamo Mingo is doing here is he's communicating, to us, like, this is what the situation is, and I'm concerned about it. I'm a little bit worried about what I see. So let's dive in. If you're curious, in the main textbook, if you've got the big version of Give Me Liberty, here are your page numbers 156 to 164, and then look at those maps. That'll help you understand the context here. So let's dive into the source itself. And what he's going to open with is he is going to say that, back when I was young, I had good memories of the white man. They treated me well. We had good trading arrangements. That's what he's saying here. I took them by the hand and have ever remained firm to my engagements. In return, all my wants and those of my warriors, wives, and children have been bountifully supplied. We've had a good relationship. But now there's this other race of white men. They are just as rich. I expect that they will treat us the exact same way. Now, he goes on, he says, well, look, we used to hang out with France, and France supplied us, and now we've got to deal with the English, and I kind of wish now that I had dealt with the English when I was young, because now they're the ones who say that they are in charge. Now, here, I'm a little bit confused with what he's trying to get at in this, at least the first part of this paragraph. He says, with respect to the land, I was not consulted in it. If I was to deliver my sentiments, evil-disposed people might impute it to my motives very different from those which actuate me. It is true the land belonged chiefly to those who have given it away, that the words which were spoken have been written with a lasting mark. The superintendent marks every word after word, as one would count bullets, so that no variation can happen, and therefore the words have been spoken and the eternal marks traced. I will not say anything to contradict, but, on the contrary, confirm the cession which has been made. What I have to say on that head is to wish that all the land may be settled in 4 years, that I may see it myself before I die. So he's using a lot of pronouns here. I should have put that up here. That's the paragraph that I just read. He's using a lot of pronouns here, and it's not. It's hard for me to tell who specifically he's talking about, or he's using language that you could. If you didn't know more, it'd be hard to say. So, like, who are those who have given it away? Does he mean himself? I think he means the French here. That all of this was done in a deal, and, we saw all of that happen, and, the French, gave it to the English, and we recognized that, and the English said that they were going to settle it, and he's saying, well, you know what? I hope that I see them settle it within 4 years. I guess, like they said, that they would, make sure that all of the trade relationships and all of that the French had promised and were developing, the English would continue to do as well. I think that's what's going on here. You can interpret it however you want to. Just, make sure that you have evidence. Now, he's starting to talk about some of the concerns he has on the next page. So here, in this paragraph, it says, I listened to all the parts of the talks and liked them exceedingly well, except that part from the superintendent, the English guy, where he reported that those metal chiefs who did not behave well should be broke and their medals given to others. The conversation I have held with favor in private has wrung every nation. So many of these people don't like him because that's the perils of leadership. People aren't going to like you necessarily. He's worried that he might be labeled one of these natives who will not work the English and therefore should be disposed. Now, he is saying here that he kind of trusts the English. He trusts what the superintendent's going to say. He trusts that, that the superintendent has promised that, look, if you give up all of the things that the French gave you, then, and, work with us, then we should be fine. And if you still want to work with the French and won't work with us, the French are our enemies, well, that's not going to go well for you. So he believes that. But he does say that he's a little bit concerned. And one of the things that he's really concerned about with the English is that when women go and work with the English, so these are native women who go and work with the English, this is what happens. One thing I must report, which has happened within my own knowledge, that often when the traders, that is English, sent for a basket of bread, and the generous Indian sent his own wife to supply their wants, instead of taking the bread out of the basket, they put their hand upon the breast of their wives, which was not to be admitted, for the first maxim in our language is that death is preferable to disgrace. But what he's saying here is we've sent our women, and I know of one story, not me personally, but Alibamo Mingo knows one story, where a wife was sent with a basket of bread, and instead of taking the bread out of the basket, what these English merchants did was feel up his wife. And that this is not okay. I mean, it's sexual assault. As far as we're concerned, I mean, that's a sexual assault. So, he wants that remedied. Now, with the rest of this, he's saying we want to share our land with the English. We don't want to deprive ourselves of the use of the land. We want to work with these people, but we're really, really, really concerned about what's going on. So what do we do with this document? And I think that's the things that worry some of you guys when you are thinking about, okay, well, why did we read this? Now, I assign this because it is a good example of how shifting imperial powers have an effect on the lives of native peoples. It's very clear that Alibamo, by reading this source, is not totally thrilled with his new situation. That this new change in imperial oversight has really kind of rocked his world. And that there's tension here. It's not quite the tension like with Pontiac, where Pontiac is saying, okay, well, we're just done with white people, we need to get rid of them. He's saying, well, look, Alibamo Mingo is saying, well, we want to work with these people, but, they got to make sure that they're doing us right. If they start treating us another way, what recourse do we have? I'm worried that if I start complaining about the way that the English are treating us, then they're going to take my power away and dispossess people of land further, which is what happens. It's one of those terrible stories that we have to talk about in American history. So I give this to you as an example of what it would feel like to live under this kind of imperial control, and think about the feeling here with the Native Americans, and then think about the British colonists who are also going to live, complain about living under the thumb of an imperial power. The results are very different, and we should understand why those results are very different. Why are the English colonists able to turn against their imperial oppressors, as they so label them, and fight for their independence, and then immediately turn around and force their own imperial violence against native peoples? It seems like an incongruence. That's something that we have to wrestle with. So that'll wrap up this primary source walkthrough. Don't hesitate to reach out with questions, and I'll see you on the next one.